Hello, I'm Nina Soden, urban fantasy author of the Blood Angel series and the Sector C series. And today I have Robert P. Ottone here with me. He is an author, a teacher, and a cigar enthusiast from East Islip, New York. Is that how you say it?
Islip. Yep.
Islip, New York. He delights in the creepy. He can be found online at spookyhousepress.com or on Instagram at Robert Ottone. That's at RobertOttone. So make sure you go and check him out. His collections, Her Infernal Name and Other Nightmares, as well as People, a horror anthology about love, loss, life, and things that go bump in the night, are available now wherever books are sold. And we are going to dig in and talk about both of those. So first off, thank you so much, Robert, for joining me in this interview and sharing with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. Okay, so before you go running out to Amazon to pick up his books, just know that we are going to be having a giveaway. So Her Infernal Name and Other Nightmares is up for grabs. What you need to do is comment below to let me know that you want to be entered in the giveaway and like this video. All right, that's a great cover. Show that to us one more time.
Absolutely.
Now,
Thank you so much.
Who designed that cover?
I have a cover artist named Sami Ahmed. He is really wonderful. He's done both of my covers, and he he works really hard. I'm kind of a weird taskmaster when it comes to covers, but he's delivered both times for me. So
that's awesome. I like it when you kind of find somebody that you kind of mesh with and use them over and over again. They start to get the feel for what you like.
Yeah, he knows that I'm a fan of the minimalist aesthetic for my covers. So he and I work really well together. He's very sweet too. No matter how much I'm like, he takes it in stride.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so for those of us that don't know you, have not read your work, tell us a little bit about you as an author and how you got your start in writing.
Sure. I graduated with a BA in writing and English and creative writing and English literature. And I was a journalist for a long time. Then I went into copywriting and playwriting. A play that I wrote has been performed on both coasts and Alaska. It did some workshopping here in New York, like almost off-Broadway kind of thing. And from there, I went into screenwriting. I had a screenwriting fellowship for a let's just say like a major production company for a year and a half. That was pretty cool. I got to see some stuff before it went into production and did some like rewrite stuff and whatnot. That was a good experience. And then I sort of went into the private sector working as a copywriter and social media strategist, and then became a teacher, and then sort of went back to writing as my passion. Getting my master's, my first master's, took a lot of work, so I had no time to write for myself. And becoming a teacher, I had a little more time to sort of indulge my passions. And then my first collection was put together sort of in a therapeutic way to kind of deal with the loss of my dad. Okay. So I put that together, sort of working through a lot of my emotional baggage connected to losing my father.
Yeah, writing can definitely be therapeutic. That's awesome. And I think as writers, we put so much heart and soul and blood, sweat and tears into what we write that when you connect to it on that level, it only makes your writing better.
Thank you. Yeah, and I find a lot of people connect to the story in that particular collection that's specifically about him. And they usually I've gotten some very sweet messages about it and saying like, I didn't know your dad, but I can really get a feel for what you were going through after losing him. So I was like, that was the idea. So good.
That's awesome. Now I have to ask, being a theater lover, I've acted it for years and years and years, both in theater and television and film. So I have to ask, do any of your plays or your screenplays feed into what you've written in either of these two books? Are they anything related, or do you have aspirations to turn those scripts into novels?
I think that there's the play that I wrote. I think that could very easily be turned into maybe a novella. Um, but yeah, I think I originally wrote that almost like a Twilight Zone episode. I wanted it to sort of stand as like its own little 30-minute schmooze kind of thing, but then it kind of grew from there. So I think there's a lot of room to maybe turn that into a novella, maybe go back to that well a little bit for sure. And there's a screenplay that I wrote while I was in that fellowship. Excuse me, yeah, it was a fellowship. What am I talking about? Where the company does not make horror movies that I was working for, but
Okay.
they liked what I was writing enough to keep me on for a little longer. So they never produced anything, but they liked what I was doing. So I was thinking one of the scripts that I wrote during that time would probably make a pretty good novella as well. So there's those two that I could see turning into something.
Okay, very cool. Now, obviously, you are within that horror genre. That is your niche. Why horror? Now, I love horror. I grew up watching the scary movies from B movies all the way. So, why horror? What grips you?
Horror, I feel like, can tell any kind of story. You can say anything through horror. Family dramas are great. Family, epic family stories, dramas, and stuff like that. Wonderful, great. But horror, you could do that, but with a ghost. And
Okay.
that's just so much more interesting to me. You know, the story of people having a baby is very exciting. A story of a woman being raped by the devil and giving birth to Satan and Rosemary's Baby, so much more interesting.
Okay. So, I absolutely, I completely get it. And you also have a little bit more leeway to kind of play with reality when it comes to horror.
Yeah, for
Anything
sure.
can go and anything goes. The sky is the limit. You do what you want and it can be real in that moment.
Oh yeah.
So
And
with you, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, like, when you think about, the greatest horror stuff that, whether we've seen it on screen or in the written page, it's always a healthy dose of reality, right? Like,
Yeah.
The Sixth Sense is just ordinary people meets The Exorcist. That's all that movie is.
Yeah.
So both of those things, beautiful on their own, when combined, something in the horror genre, but so much more. So I like that space. I like living in that space where you can take an idea and maybe just add as much reality to it as possible. I like to my characters. I feel like I try to give them the most realistic reaction to things as humanly possible. Like, well, we should be calling the police. You always say that watching a horror movie, we should always call the cops, and it's like, well, my characters do, and
Okay. So,
so
and
it's
that was my next question. Are your characters more realistic in that, hey, you as a reader, do you read it and go, oh, this could happen? Or do you read it and it's kind of like that jump scare and then, ha ha ha, okay, yeah, that's not realistic.
I like to think maybe a little bit of both, but I really, really, really love when I, watching something where characters take a realistic approach to something is awesome to me.
Yeah.
That show, The Outsider, that was based on the Stephen King book. There's that episode. It's the second to last episode where all of the hero characters finally all come together, and they're all staying together in one house. And it's like, oh my God, that makes the most sense that they would all just watch each other's back. There would be guys out on the front porch protecting each other. There'd be people inside. And it's like, that's exactly how this would be. If this was a lesser filmmaker or a lesser writer, they'd be at different hotels and different places. And it's like that kind of realistic approach I really appreciate. So I try to always go for the realism and how people would really respond to these kind of horrible situations. Sometimes that doesn't always work out for them, but
Yeah.
hopefully, sometimes it does.
So I love the fact that you brought up The Outsider. If you've watched any of my YouTube channel in the past or read my blog, I am a huge Stephen King fanatic. I mean, he's the reason I love books. Um, did you read The Outsider or did you just see the show?
I only saw the show. I haven't read the book. I've only read one Stephen King book other than On Writing.
And I'm
And
turning you off. No.
all right, I'll see you later. It was thinner, and I loved
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
I have a whole bunch. I have so many of it. I actually have Pet Cemetery right up there. But I don't there's only so much time. And I feel bad I haven't read more. My fiance's read everything. My mother's read everything. So I'm the only one who hasn't.
Okay, so you have to read the book and you have to come back and tell me what you think about the book because, I mean, like most things, the book is 1,000 times better than the show. And the show I did enjoy, but it let me down in certain aspects. And I was thankful that I had watched the show after reading the book. So definitely you have to read the book and you have to come back and let me know what you think about it.
Happily, yeah, I would love to.
So horror. Who is your favorite horror author?
I really love John Saul
Okay.
a lot. I think John Saul's probably written my favorite horror novel of all time, Stuff for the Children. But I have to say, Mark Danielewski's House of Leaves.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that's not like a super original thought, like, oh my God, House of Leaves is the scariest thing. It really is the scariest thing that I've ever read. So that's terrifying to me. But I'm also a huge fan of Robert Aickman
Okay.
and Brian Evanson. Brian Evanson is the writer I wish I could be.
So now let's switch to movies. What is your favorite horror film?
Oh, God, I love Halloween.
Okay.
My dream would be, after this new Halloween cycle is over, maybe 10 years from now, Blumhouse will say, let's do this again and let's get some horror writers to write books about it. And I'd be like, please, me.
Yes.
I love Halloween, but I love The Exorcist. I think The Exorcist truly is the scariest thing that's ever been put on screen. There's a really wonderful horror. My favorite movie of this year, of 2020 rather, is Dogs Don't Wear Pants. That's one of
I
my
haven't
favorite.
seen it.
It's on Shudder. That's probably my favorite of recent memory. But definitely The Exorcist, Halloween. I don't really go for like the slashery gore stuff. I will watch them, but that's not really my thing. I like the 70s brand of horror. I just love 70s filmmaking above all others in general. Yeah. So,
Yep.
Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, The Changeling. Oh my God.
That's my number one. That's my favorite. Love it.
The Changeling is such a masterpiece, and I still get chills with the sound of I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but the sound of the banging, I'm always like, even though I know what it is, it's just so intense every single time. And it's amazing to me that I'm sorry to go off on a tangent.
No,
That
you're
director made The Changeling and then like no real other horror movies. And it's like, why? You've made a masterpiece. What's happening?
Because when you do it exactly right, why chance doing it wrong?
That's true. I guess William Friedkin, same kind of thing. He made The Exorcist, and then years later he made Bug, which was very good. And then he was like, all right, I'm done with horror. Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about your writing process. Are you a plotter? Are you a pantser? Where do you fall in that realm?
I am such a plotter. It's really bad. However, there's a story in Her Infernal Name and Other Nightmares that's all pants.
Okay.
And people love that one. So, I was terrified the whole time writing because I'm like, I don't like this. I don't know where this is going. And I don't like it. But apparently I should do it more because people really... I just got a compliment about it today. I got a message on Instagram being like, what happens in this story? And I'm like, do you really want me to tell you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I should be more of a pantser, but I am a plotter for sure.
Okay. And how long does it take you to go from concept to... Well, I mean, you do short stories, not full-length novels, but how long does it take you to go from concept to publication ready for one of your stories?
I would say, if I can get, the right feedback and my beta readers give me the right stuff, I would say 2 days for a short story. 2 days.
How long are your stories typically?
About 20 pages.
Okay. So that seems reasonable. 2 days for 20 pages, 10 pages a day. That's reasonable.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I wrote a YA sci-fi horror novel in about 4 months. And I just did a rewrite on that during my holiday break as a teacher. So so that was about 4 months plus about 15 days. So about 4.5 months for that one to give it a solid first draft to revision. Actually, technically a third revision.
And when do you think that's going to be coming out? When can my viewers expect that to hit the shelves?
I have meetings about it in about 2 weeks, so I don't know. Maybe
So,
a year.
are your first two books, are those traditionally published then?
They are published through my publishing company, Spooky House Press.
Okay. And yours, so it's your own publishing. So
It is, yeah.
it's technically self-published. Why
It
did
is,
you
yeah.
decide to go that route instead of traditional publishing? And with this new one, if you're taking meetings, I assume you're trying to do it traditionally. Why the change?
I didn't have any confidence with the first book at all. I didn't think, I was like, who's going to read this other than people that I know? And I needed to get it out.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I wanted to learn because I want to have a small press publishing house, and the first book led to that. It also got me into the Horror Writers Association, so I'm very happy about that. And we have published other authors as well, so we are beginning to branch out and publish more work that's not just mine, thank God. And I just didn't have the confidence. I just had no guts. I had no confidence in myself at all. I have enough for a third collection, and all of those stories have been published in other outlets. So I'm hoping that these first two will, give me the confidence to submit more material to traditional publishing houses.
Okay, that's awesome. What can your readers expect if they are going to open a book from you for the very first time? What should they expect?
I would hope that they would laugh at certain parts. I like a little bit of funny mixed in with my scares.
Okay.
But I hope that you would look at, these characters and be able to relate to them and really see yourself in them. I don't write like military superhero type guys. Like, I find there's nothing more boring than that personally, but that's not what I'm here for. So like, I would hope that people could just connect to the material a little bit, whether you love it or hate it. I hope you love it, but if you hate it, I appreciate you giving it a try.
Now, you're not a full-time writer because you do teach. What grade do you teach?
I work with adults. I teach English as a new language to adults. It is the most incredible teaching I've ever done, and I'm so thankful. My students are amazing. We had a session today, and they just astounded me so much. Most of my students are from China, and they're just such lovely, beautiful souls. I actually almost cried in class today when one of them told me a story about their hardships in China before they came here. But I also work with high school equivalency students, so people who are trying to get their high school equivalency exam material ready. So some of those are like 17-year-olds, some of them are 21-year-olds, some of them are 40-year-olds. So it kind of runs the gamut. But predominantly, I work with English as a new language students, and I love it.
So how do you, as an author, balance your time and get your writing done when you're working? And how has COVID affected that?
Well, we closed down when we're in New York. So our governor closed us down at the end of March.
Yeah.
And we were all teaching from home at that time. I ended up getting coronavirus at the end of March. So that was terrible. But I had some downtime. And in that downtime, I wrote that novel, the young adult novel. So I try to write a little bit every day. I'm in the process of getting 2 additional master's degrees on top of the one that I already have right now. So I don't have a ton of time to write. I actually did a revision on a story today. Took me about an hour. So it's finding the time is very difficult, but I'm doing the best that I can. I try to write at least a half hour a day. It doesn't always happen.
Okay. And do you find that, as an author, I find it more difficult to write a short story than a novel? How do you find that process? And does that just come naturally that your stories are short stories as opposed to novels?
I think I often will look at a story and I'll decide, well, does this have legs to go the full length? And more often than not, I've been kind of living in the novella space, and I've been reading a lot of novellas. So when I did write this YA novel that I'm trying to sell or whatever, I was really worried that it was not going to go as long as I wanted it to. And then it ended up just kind of all of the material that I wanted in there lent itself naturally to like, no, you can dedicate as many scenes to this as you can because you need all of this. So I do prefer short stories because I like, I kind of write like a Navy SEAL. I want to get in, do the job, and get out.
Yeah.
So I do like short stories, but I find novels to be a lot of fun as well. I have a novella planned that I want to start writing. Probably in February, I'll start on the novella just to see how that goes. But I find short stories to be a little more fun. I find living in the headspace of a novel to be a little more daunting. Just being in that same place for so long, for 4.5 months or whatever, it was a lot. So I do enjoy it, but I would like to write more short stories.
So let's talk a little bit about Her Infernal Name and Other Nightmares. Show us that cover one more time. Get that back in everybody's head. If you want a chance to win a copy, like I said, comment below and like this video. All right. How many stories are in this novel or in this collection?
There are 18 stories in here. Yeah, there are 18 stories in here.
Okay. And how long did that book take you from the time you started thinking, I want to put a collection together till it was published?
I started writing it. The writing process took about 2.5 months for all 18 stories. It's 17 stories in one novella. So that took about 2.5 months. And then the editing and formatting and revision, that was probably another 3 months or so of that. The cover artist and all that stuff. So took about 5 months to put it all together from start to release.
Okay. Now, hard question. I know it's always a hard one for me. Which is your favorite story?
I think the novella is probably my favorite, and that's Her Infernal Name. That's probably my favorite just because it plays with the sensibilities that I like. It plays with paranoia. It plays with a lot of different themes of or different ideas of like fear of missing out and how these things and social media, how it can control your life or how it affects your life. And it's really dark. It's really creepy. It was a lot of fun to write, and it's people seem to like it. So that makes me happy. But I'd say that one's my favorite. And the one that I pantsed the whole way is slowly becoming my second favorite because hearing people talk about it makes me like it more.
And what is the name of that one?
That one's called Apple Valley.
And is that the one that you get the most feedback on?
It seems to be that one. And that one, the novella, and there's a short story in there called Support about a support group for different creatures like vampires and stuff like that. And people really like that one because it's kind of a sweet one and it's a little funny. That's like the palate cleanser story.
Okay.
In the book. Yeah.
Okay. So what is the hardest story either in this collection or in your other collection or the one that you're doing now? What is the hardest story you've ever had to write, but you got through?
Probably the story that's about my dad in the first collection. That's the one I can't really read it without crying. I read it at his grave after the first book came out. And that one's called The Veil. And it's just, it's too emotional for me to read. So that one, and it was also hard to write. So I would say that one. There's also sort of a follow-up story, or it plays with similar themes in the second collection called The Final Goodbye. And that's also very difficult to write and read as well.
So do each of the books have a theme that kind of all of them are tied together?
The first book, People, is about reaction and how humans and people deal with difficult circumstances, whether it's trauma or loss or whatever. And the second one is all about fear. So I put all of my fears into Her Infernal Name and Other Nightmares.
Okay, very cool. Now, is there anything else that we haven't yet discussed that you'd like my viewers to know, either about you, your process, or about your books?
No, I guess, if you do read them and enjoy them, I I appreciate it. I appreciate anybody who gives them a read. It means a lot to me. So thank you if you pick them up.
So, as authors, we are always looking for reviews. So, I will say this: the links to his books will be in the description below. Make sure you go and check them out. Order a copy, read them, and if you like it, give it a review, because reviews are so important to us as authors. It's how we get seen.
Yeah, very true.
So, all right, I'm going to wrap this interview up. I always end all of my interviews with an honor to James Lipton. I do his Inside the Actors Studio questionnaire. So if you've heard of it, awesome. If you haven't, it's more fun for me. It is 10 questions, hot seat style, no explanations, just an answer. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And there are no wrong answers.
I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to do this questionnaire, so I'm excited.
Awesome. Fantastic. All right. So, what is your favorite word?
Impaled.
What is your least favorite word?
No.
What turns you on?
Creativity.
What turns you off?
Boring. Being boring.
What sound or noise do you love?
I love cats meowing. I think it's cute.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Boring people talking.
Okay. What is your favorite curse word?
Cocksucker.
What profession, other than your own, would you like to attempt?
I would love to be a detective. I think I would be a pretty good one.
What profession, other than your own, would you not want to attempt?
Actuary. So boring.
All right, last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
An all-star team of the Yankees is playing, and you and your dad have behind home plate seats.
Awesome. So you're a Yankees fan.
I am.
Fantastic. All right, Robert, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and to share information about yourself and about your books. And I encourage everybody out there, go pick up a copy. If you are a fan of horror, pick up a copy for yourself. If you know somebody who's a fan of horror, pick up a copy for them. If you know somebody who really hates horror and you don't like them, pick up a copy for them too. All right. Thank you so much. You have a great day. That is the end of the video.